And welcome to this episode of Season 3, the last episode of Season 3 of the Dr. Tech Show, where myself, Pauline, Roche and Sweyn Hunter and top fun guests, as we have a guest today, talk about digital topics, including the world of online communications and digital inclusion, in a show which is the brainchild of digital storyteller, the late John Popham. And we are going to be joined today by Emma Weston, who's going to join us later in the show. So Sweyn, weather. What's the weather report from you this week, and how's it been?
The weather in Orkney this weekend has been lovely, and today it's not very bright, but it's warm, and it's quite unusually it's calm, so that's good.
Nice. In Birmingham, we've had bits of rain. I've been working for the last 5 days on the Northfield Beaches, the annual one of the annual big engagement events for our charity. So I'm a bit knackered, but can we say that on this show? Yes, we can.
I think we have.
But 5 days of activity for local families, a beach, games, performances, circus skills, Shetland ponies, who are from a small charity called Let's Enable, I think, and a sensory tent. It's a whole day actually for people with disabilities on the Wednesday. And athletics and sports and a community alley, so other charities could also talk about what they're doing for people in the Northfield constituency. So really lively 5 days of activities run by the wonderful Northfield Community Partnership, who I work for. So that was been good, and the weather has mostly been fine. Kids were on the beach right up to, let's say, 2 o'clock yesterday. So
excellent.
Really pleased.
You'll be tired today.
A little bit, yes. glad of a less active day today. So yeah.
Nice to be outside though. So that's good. Yeah.
It was very nice. Very nice. So that leads nicely actually into our Dates and Love Parks week. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes. Well, we as normal, we've picked out a few events dates, awareness days, and we're bang in the middle of Love Parks Week, which is run by Keep Britain Tidy, and it's taking place from the 28th of July to the 6th of August, and it gives people across the country a chance to shout about their wonderful green spaces. I think we've covered this in a previous year, but it's worth repeating, I think.
Yeah.
So whether it's worth walking the dog or picnicking with friends or pushing our children around in a playground swing, our parks give communities, children and pets a vital space to play, grow and bond. And Love Parks Week was set up to celebrate and support the efforts of volunteers and workers up and down the country to maintain and protect our green spaces. So it provides a week of action for parks to run events in their local area, and it's run in partnership with Regatta, and made possible thanks to the players of the People's Postcode Lottery. So that's Love Parks Week.
Nice one. Yeah, I mean, I have to say, a lot of the children who came to Northfield Victoria Common for the event for the last 5 days, that, you know, even when they were leaving the organised area at 4 o'clock when we finished, they were just straight to the playground next door. You know, they don't stop playing. You know, so it's good to see that happening. Yeah.
That's good. So the second and final date, awareness day that we've picked up this week is Cycle to Work Day. Just checking it's sharing the right thing. Yes, I think it is. And this is going to happen on the 4th of August. So later on this week, that'll be Thursday or Friday, I think. And it's billed as the UK's biggest cycle commuting event. And it's for absolutely everyone, it says. It doesn't matter if you haven't cycled in years or have never cycled at all. This is just about giving it a go. And it'll be happening in our free Love to Ride online community. So that there's links to that on the website that I'm sharing. Or you can sign up with Facebook, Strava, which I think is the exercise app, or simply by entering your details and connecting a smartphone app so that you can log your rides. So all the info is needed is on the Love to Ride website, which I'm showing now. So for that, and there's also a few challenges and prizes and other things going on the day. So that is Cycle to Work Week. I can't say that I'm a very enthusiastic cyclist.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky to live close enough to where I work, almost always to be able to walk there. So I don't think I'll be doing Cycle to Work Day, but it looked like a great active travel option for those who might be almost considering giving cycling to work a go and just need a little bit of extra motivation to get going.
Absolutely.
Are you a cyclist?
I am a cyclist, and
Good.
in fact, I'm one of the things I forgot to mention about the Northfield Beaches was we had yesterday a bike check. Birmingham Better Streets for Birmingham is a local charitable organisation who came along and brought along a bike mechanic, a guy called Fabio, who actually works locally to me here in Moseley, and he was doing comprehensive bike checks. And I would say a bike service really, for all the people who brought bikes to get them checked. And I brought my own bike. I happened to have it in the back of the car because I hadn't taken it out from a previous ride. And I have to say, Fabio, I mean, I know we're friends and he knows me and everything, but he took as much care over somebody else's bike. I saw him as he did with mine. There was a young guy who brought his bike along, and Fabio did comprehensive work on him and on his bike, and I would say the bike was in a much better condition when Fabio finished it as he started. And similarly for mine, checked the brakes. He moved certain things around to make it more convenient for me to cycle it. And yeah, it was really, you hear about bike checks, and this was a really good half an hour.
Oh, wow, yes.
Well worth spending for free.
Did your bike need much adjustment or
Well, it was one of those things like, when you go to the dentist for a checkup. I felt I hadn't had a checkup for a while, so I just wanted to check it over. And as it happened, yeah, I feel he did some things that would make it a bit easier for me to cycle it, and for the safety, for the brakes and stuff. And yeah, it just feels better having somebody professional to check, your
it's
bike.
certainly reassuring. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And one young little person brought their bike, one of those bikes without just a balance bike, without pedals, and that was had some fixing to be done as well. So it was great to see it happening and know that it was making it safer and better for people to cycle. So whether you go to work or to the work of playing when you're a child,
yes,
then it's better if your bike is in good condition.
Yeah.
Good. Really good. Okay, and on to events then. We are going to cover some events for the rest of kind of this week and also into next week in August, because for those of who listen to us regularly, that we don't present in August, so we'll be taking the month off, and we thought we'd bring you some other events that are happening that'll be might be of interest to some of our listeners during this week and into August. So first of all, we have 3rd of August this week, Manchester Digital Skills / Strategy Workshop, and this is talking about work that's happening in Manchester, with the digital strategy being an external plan for the whole of Manchester. The digital strategy team and board and the work and skills team feel it's time to host some space for conversation with members of the network, to look at what has been set, what the current landscape looks like, and discuss how to move towards creating some clear and tangible activities for the second year of their delivery plan. I'm sure other councils up and down the country are also looking at digital strategy with the groups they work with. And I know also in Birmingham this week, Tech WM, which is rebranded from Birmingham Tech, is having its summer tech social tomorrow evening at Moss House in Birmingham, and I'll be going to that and catching up with some of my pals in Birmingham on the tech scene, and hopefully maybe even recruiting some people who might be interested in digital trusteeship and getting involved in digital inclusion activities for the communities around Birmingham. But yeah, Manchester's having this event, and we hope it goes really well for them. The next one is on the 8th of August, and from 1 to 3 p.m. And when I saw the headline, it says celebrating diverse digital talent in the city, I thought it was London, because I was trying to pick up something that was in London, because we remember that things happen in London as well, not just in the rest of the country. But actually, this is in Glasgow. An event happening in Glasgow on the 8th of August, and the blurb says that Glasgow is a thriving hub of innovation, is on track to become one of the world's leading digital innovation cities in the next few years. Well done, Glasgow. And now more than ever, accessibility to highly skilled talent is essential to scale digital tech businesses and the ecosystem within the city. But the question is, how do some of the organisations driving forward scaling that tech sector support and ensure the talent is diverse and opportunities that are accessible to all people in the city and Glasgow city region? So this event, at this event, you'll be able to join industry leaders driving the future of Glasgow's tech talent, including Bruntwood SciTech, who are also in Birmingham, Code Clan, Connected Places Catapult Elevator, and Scottish Women in Business, as they explore the city region's diverse talent pipeline, existing alternative accessible upskilling opportunities available, and discuss what more can be done. So I think that'll be of interest to lots of people in Scotland. Sweyn, what do you think?
Yes, Glasgow is definitely ahead of most places in Scotland in this sort of activity. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of that, what comes out of that event for sure.
Yeah, excellent. And then another event in Scotland, Tech for Good Scotland. Our friends at Third Sector Lab, Ross McCullough and colleagues, are organising the August Tech for Good meetup on the 9th of August from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. And this is part of the Tech for Good UK network, which I'm also part of. They have 2 great speakers lined up, and you'll get the chance to meet others using digital as a tool for positive change, plus the opportunity to share your own work with those attending. And they're promising morning coffees and pastries for everyone joining us. The speakers are Chigozie Joe Adigwe, from the Digital Network Officer with the Alliance, and Hugh Wallace, the Chief Information Officer at Research Data Scotland. That sounds like something I'd like to go to if I happened to be in Scotland. I'm not sure if there are tickets still available, but the link is on Eventbrite, and we will put it with the notes of the after the show on YouTube.
It's not showing us sold out, so that's good. If you can get to Glasgow, he said,
yeah,
that'll be a great event. Yes,
absolutely. Well done to them for organising. And back to Manchester, they were having a data community summer social, like the Birmingham one, on the 10th of August. And for this event, the blurb says that our friends Code and Stuff, Open Data Manchester, Pi Data MCR, and Our Ladies Manchester will join us being whoever they are, Manchester Data Community, to host a Manchester Data and Tech Community Summer Social to bring everyone together again and hear more about each of these groups and their activities. So they're asking people to register and come along to connect and network with others in the Manchester Data Tech Community, and everyone is welcome. And then the final event we have found for August, 17th of August from 11 to 2 p.m. is in Birmingham, and it's an event being organised by Birmingham. Sorry, have you got the blurb up there, Sweyn?
it's coming.
Yeah, okay. So Ladder for Greater Birmingham. Ladder for Birmingham. Okay, I hadn't heard of them before. So they are saying to people, if you're considering an apprenticeship or want to know more about what they are, please come and join us at the Youth Hub on the 17th of August, 11 to 2 p.m. At the lower ground floor in the Library of Birmingham. They say they'll have a variety of apprenticeship providers available on the day for you to talk and discuss your options. Well, that's quite good, isn't it? If you're wanting to get started on your digital career, it is one of the elements of digital inclusion that Freddie Queck talks about on his framework for digital inclusion, looking for better jobs. So
yes,
good to see people be organising that as they are. Okay, well, we haven't got our special guest yet, although I'm sure she'll be joining us shortly. So we'll go on to look at some of the stories we've picked up to talk about, and we'll come back to Emma Weston when she's able to join us. So the first one is an open letter from Barack Obama extending his support to America's librarians. And we actually haven't talked about libraries that much recently.
No,
so I think
we've
in this
been
season on the
backsliding.
show. Yeah. But we're very pleased to bring you this story, which we picked up on Facebook. And former President of the United States, Barack Obama, published an open letter on the 17th of July, extending his support to America's librarians in an era of rising book challenges and growing personal attacks against those who resist them. And in his letter, President Obama underscores the importance of communities being able to have access to information via libraries, and expresses his and former First Lady Michelle Obama's gratitude to librarians for their unwavering commitment to the freedom to read. And there is a longer bit on that. Is there anything else that jumps out to you from that letter, Sweyn? Anything you particularly liked?
The main thing is just that it's great to see a bit of a defense of libraries in general in the US, because bizarrely they seem to have become quite political, with some people trying to restrict which books and what information can be disseminated from libraries. So it's good to see someone of President Obama's stature to noticing that and supporting libraries in what they're trying to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, as we know, libraries have always been great hubs for digital inclusion and support generally. So we do want to see them continue and get supported and to be properly staffed as well, because volunteers are great, but they need support as well. So the more professional support we can get in the libraries, the better.
Absolutely.
Okie dokie. So moving on, we have a story. We might have mentioned this one before, but the UK 3G network is going to be switched off over the next few years, starting in earlier in this year. So this is a story from the Which magazine website. And so they're explaining that the UK's 3G mobile services operated by the big four providers, EE, Three, Vodafone and O2, are being phased out over the next few years, starting, as we said, in this year. Used since 2003 to deliver calls, text and data using older, less efficient technology, 3G and ultimately 2G is being switched off to make room for faster and more reliable 5G networks. But, obviously reflecting the interest that we have on this show, the switch off, which says may be problematic for customers using older mobile devices and services that rely on these networks, meaning the device, or at least the SIM, may need replacing. So that's a concern that, some of the people that we hope we're kind of talking about on this show might well be affected. And I know in Birmingham we've been talking about this with the City Council and colleagues from the providers, to kind of give people a heads up in various places, because obviously you need to use various channels to reach people, to tell people that this is happening. And we're trying to find out some data about how many people is affecting and where they're located, because the data that the providers have can tell you that. They have good data on where people are located. So
it's a complicated message to get across as well, because it varies by network. Not everyone will fully appreciate how 4G and 3G interact. For a while, I'm sure I couldn't have told you when 4G was new whether I was on 3G or 4G. Most of the time, it just kind of works.
Yeah.
And the good news, the only good news is that the 2G network, although it's mentioned in this article, there's no date yet for ending it. Or rather, there's no date for starting the switch off of 2G yet. I think there is a date where they're aiming to sometime in 2033. Aiming to have this work completed. So that's an interesting thing. So I think we're ready to be joined by Emma. So let's say hello to her. We're doing the Zoom joining moment here, which is all good. And here comes Emma now. I think she's can probably hear us. And
hi, Emma.
Hello, Emma. How are you doing? Well done. That's it.
Hi, I'm very
lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us.
It's lovely to see you both.
We are live on the internet, although our live audience is usually quite small. People tend to watch this on catch up rather than at 12 o'clock on a Monday. but welcome in any case to our show, Pauline.
Very welcome, Emma. Great to see you and looking so bright. I'm loving your pink and orange. That's one of my combinations as well.
Yes, hello both. I'm wearing this in defiance of the weather, because I'm so fed up of looking at it and going, it's like it's raining again.
Oh no.
I'm channeling my jumper into the weather.
Well, we hope it has an effect. We've just been comparing our weather here, and it's been grey, but not hopefully. We're hoping that it hasn't been raining too much over the last day or two for people we're working alongside. So welcome to the show, Emma. I know you only have about 15 minutes or so to spend with us today, but really grateful that you can join us. If I just briefly introduce you to say that Emma leads one of the most innovative digital inclusion organisations in the UK, which is Digital Unite, which works with public, third sector and private organisations to influence digital inclusion policy and practice, developing and delivering creative, impactful learning and training for them so they can embed digital inclusion and essential digital skills in the workplaces and cascade them to their customers and service users. Emma believes everyone who is digitally included has a responsibility to champion it for those who aren't, and we certainly follow that on this show. That can be giving time or thought to their digital needs, sharing knowledge and skills, building their confidence and curiosity. She also believes that organisations of all shapes and sizes and across all sectors have a role to play in encouraging, supporting and sustaining these champion behaviours. So today we're going to be talking to Emma about the Communications and Digital Committee report, Digital Exclusion. So Emma, how have you been, and what's your response to the report? I know you've said a few things on LinkedIn, but what's your kind of ongoing message to people about the report?
Well, Pauline, Sweyn, I'm very well, and I'm very honoured to be here on your splendid show. I mean, you know, the bottom line for me is I was just so happy to see that report. I nearly did a cartwheel because it was a sort of, it's not a vindication, is like the wrong word, but, you know, I kind of have over the years, because I've been doing this for a long time, I have felt like a broken record, and it's very wearing being a voice of dissent. And it's very wearing saying, you know, come on, people, have we not got a better response to this? You know, you don't want to be that sort of, you know, the energy in life is precious and finite, and it's about driving change. So I've become very bored with saying, what are we doing, people? So when that report came out, I was just like, hallelujah, you know, give these people all some cakes. So that's how I feel, and I still feel like that. I still feel like that. I mean, it didn't pull its punches. It was very thorough, and they had a lot of very, very good people, very thoughtful people giving evidence. They'd drawn on a lot of sources. You know, it's a well constructed document with a very good narrative, and you know, really now for me, it's just like, well, what is the government response going to be? I've got to say, you know, I'm hoping, but let's see, right?
Yeah. I mean, I welcomed it as well, and I'm hoping to use it in my work to kind of use it as a tool to kind of impress on people the kind of the bold facts really that are in the and the data that can't be denied in the report. Were you part of the witnesses, or did you give a statement or anything?
No, it coincided at a slightly awkward patch for me, and so I didn't give any evidence, and I did the date I was going to go and give evidence, they changed. So anyway, it doesn't, or I got the wrong end of the stick, but it doesn't really matter, because there's, you know, I don't think I could have said anything that hadn't already been said. I think what's really, you know, the big thing for me about this, about what the report says and what it unearths, is it's the elephant in the room, and it's been the elephant in the room for so long. Which is, and I've, you know, I've commented on this in other places. We can't get really excited about being, you know, digital pioneers and all the rest of it if we haven't got our house in order, if we haven't got basic digital literacy sorted out, or a plan for sorting it out. What is the point? And not so what's the point, but, you know, it's so frustrating to hear about high-end developments and movements, which is not to say I don't welcome them, but we have to, you know, we've got a really basic problem here, which is like having basic literacy issues in the UK. You know, we have to move some of these basic things on if we're going to move everything on, and if we're not going to leave people behind. And this was true when I started working in this area 25 years ago, and it's just got more true. I was on a call just this morning with some libraries, and I was saying, you know, when I started doing this work 25 years ago, I didn't actually think I'd be here 25 years later, because I thought it would kind of sort itself out, right? But that's not happened, and that's okay, because, you know, some things require constant attention, and I think education is one of those things, and certainly basic education is one of those things. But what's happened in those 25 years is the problem has moved from what I would call a very simple problem to quite a complex and nuanced problem. And this has been very well highlighted by the very excellent reports we've had out for a number of people in the last year or so. And that makes it now more difficult to tackle because it's become a complex problem. 25 years ago, we were still slightly binary about the whole thing. That's no longer the case. So it means we've not just lost time, we've made the job a little bit more tricky as well, because in that intervening period, because we didn't keep pace with the underpinning basics around digital inclusion, digital literacy, the thing has now got not away from us, but the people who are now left behind are left behind for so many compound and interconnected reasons that supporting them is going to take more effort. If we'd started this work 25 years ago as a constant, we wouldn't be here. But there's no point crying over spilt milk. That's all in the past. What is important now is that we really, I think the government in particular has the humility to acknowledge that and step back and start again. Not pretend it was doing something in the meantime, we just didn't notice, just actually go, okay, fair enough. Now what can we do? That's going to be the really important point for me. Can that be picked up? But I don't want people telling us, we've actually missed the fact they've been doing work for years. They haven't.
It's particularly concerning that the gap between included and excluded groups has deepened, and as the report says, even those who can get by today may struggle in future. So I think there's a certain amount of complacency. The people who feel they're technically savvy, that they are digitally included, think that they're sorted, and they're not. It's a leaky raft, they could easily fall off.
Yes, and I think one of the things that we could do in respect of that agenda, because it is like a moving walkway. I say we've got two big issues there. One, we have to get people on the moving walkway, and then we have to keep the moving walkway moving. And those two things require slightly different tactics and approaches. But we could help ourselves in respect of keeping the moving walkway moving if we actually thought about this as an agenda of possibility and potential and empowerment. Because as long as it's agenda of deficit, it gets framed in a way that's not helpful overall to tackling it. So let's say, you know what, this is something that's going to stay with us, remain with us, and we've got to keep pace with this. Let's embrace that. Let's treat it as learning. Let's support each other. That's a very different way of looking at this than, oh my goodness, it's all doom and gloom and no one's ever going to know enough. No one's ever going to know enough about anything. But the point is, what is our response going to be to support each other through that? And that's why I'm so in favor of, champion models, because I think we need to build ecosystems in which it's celebrated that we support each other with this stuff, not just like, these poor people over here, they can't do this. Can we change the lens a little bit on the dialogue? I think it would be useful to sort of starting again, really.
Yeah, I think you're, as it says on your LinkedIn profile about, everybody should see themselves as a digital champion. Everybody should see themselves as having a role to play in supporting the rest of us to kind of ramp up our kind of knowledge and stuff. And nothing I enjoy more than finding out something new digitally and then sharing with my friends, and they're all delighted and everything. So I think if you're not a digital champion, why are you not? It's got to be like that, hasn't it? We've got to be proudly calling ourselves digital champions and talking about what we're doing every day to help somebody else.
Yes, and playing it forward and not being embarrassed about, goodness me, I'm the most digitally illiterate person in my whole organisation, but I own it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, let's support each other. You bring me up to speed on that. You bring me up to speed on that. I'm not, the minute you start to become, precious about that stuff, you wall yourself into a corner with it. And I think that behaviour is really important. And I'd like to see that behaviour reflected back in the government response is, own it. We've got this wrong. we've missed this.
Mm.
Going to own this, and we're going to try and start again with the input of those people that know how to do something about this, because I think that's another really important point about this report. In the people they call to give evidence and in the written evidence, you know, there's a huge array of organisations of people who are very committed to this agenda.
Yes.
From different angles, from different aspects, working at different levels with different bits of expertise. They are ready to support a solution.
Mm.
And in that respect, I think the government's, you know, pushing on an open door.
Mm. Mm.
What it remains to do is to show some leadership and some willing to take that on board, because the solutions are there. It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
It is. I think that's very important.
Increasingly, we've seen on this show, you know, the evident building blocks that there are there, both at a national strategic level and also increasingly at local levels as well. Things like, Digital Unite, obviously, but things like the Digital Poverty Alliance, things like AbilityNet, you know, these big, well-organized, systematic chunks of solution material. And increasingly they are aligning themselves as well. But should the government ever choose to actually focus on that alignment and shoring things up that might need a bit more support and so on, we could surely make much better progress much more quickly.
Yes, I completely agree with you. And I think, I mean, the Digital Poverty Alliance, I think, has done a fantastic job in a very short period of time, putting together a very broad and eclectic church. And I think they have a very valuable role to play going forward. And I think the government would do well to look at the potential for that organisation to broker that stuff. And the other reason I think that's important is because the minute there's funding in the mix, we get back to the old problems and old behaviours of competition around funding, and that plunges the whole solutionising of the agenda back into another set of problems. So I think there is an argument for government departments need to be coherent between themselves, without a doubt. And I think that's been very obvious, that lack of coherence. But I think use of a neutral third party, almost as a brokering organisation, is not a bad call. Also because it then removes the government directly from what will become competitive processes around funding if funding gets re-released into the arena. And I think we need our eyes open about that. You know, you put money behind it, fabulous. The consequences of that are, how's that money going to be given out? Because a lot of people have a lot of ideas and solutions and stuff they want to fund. And I think we need a very open conversation about that bit, rather than just like, you know, no, it'd be fine if there's some funding. And well, you know, that'll solve one thing, but it'll create another set of problems.
It's the
what's your message?
plan.
What's your message to local authorities and the private sector, Emma, if they're different?
I think local authorities, I think, all power to your elbows, doing the best with what you've got, because I think they're under an incredible amount of pressure. And I would encourage the private sector to step up and do what it can to support where it can. And we've had a big increase in corporate partners in the last 12 months, which has been a delight for me, because I'm helping support some of their internal political and process of employee requirements, and support the public sector at the same time. So you can get, everyone gets something out of that, which I think is super important. I'd like to see that grow, but I think it's everyone's responsibility. I don't think it's the job of the private sector to pick it all up. Of course it isn't. But I think it's a job for all sectors to pitch in, because it's in everyone's interest that we're all digitally literate.
And I think
it's not like it just benefits one particular group.
And I think with the digital champion programs that you offer in corporates, there's great opportunities for employee engagement, kind of, because employees, it's nice to help somebody else. It's nice to learn something and pass it on to somebody else and see them flourish.
Yes,
feel that
absolutely.
You've been part of that.
Yeah. And another thing that's been really interesting in the last year or so, I think, Pauline, there is that we've seen an increasing, I think, internal demand from those corporate partners, from employees themselves, we'd actually think we should be doing something.
Okay.
As an organization, and actually individually, we would like to spend our time doing something. And those are very good points of pressure from my perspective. So again, I think it's in everyone's interest that we try and stitch these things together, I think, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
I know you don't have much time left with us, Emma, so we won't keep you more than we can, but we're really pleased you were able to join us today. We love the work of Digital Unite. We promote and talk about it in our work and kind of on the show as well. Just keep doing the great work, and presumably people can keep contacting you through LinkedIn and on your website. Yeah.
Yes. Everyone at all times, in any way they would like to just contact us. We don't have, I'm really, really clear. We're part of a network of solutions and support. We don't have any, ownership agenda or ambitions. We see ourselves as very collegiate. And if we can support other people to develop champion programs by not reinventing the wheel, that's what we get up.
Absolutely. Well, you kind of are the market leaders in that. You started it all those years ago, and you've been a model that others can and obviously have imitated. But this is your core work. Your mission is to develop digital champions. So it's great to know there's an organisation out there that's your raison d'être, really.
Yes. That's our secret. Yes.
Hopefully you will come to an end at some stage, but for now we need to keep adding.
Well, back to that point, I think it's a moving walkway. So the more champions are on that walkway, the better. I will continue to need my own array of digital champions to help me navigate.
Yes, we all do.
My life. So I sincerely hope they're going to be around for a
We certainly all do that. Yes.
Okay. Let's hope that continues then. Okay.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always a treat to see you both. And
thanks very much, Emma.
Chatting.
Have a break. I hope you have a good break for the summer.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. Have a good summer.
Okay. Yes. And wishing you both sunshine.
Thank you very much.
Well, let's hope so.
Big hope. Yeah. Take care.
Bye-bye,
Emma.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So that's Emma.
Yeah, great. I mean, it is a good report, and I'm really intending to spend a lot of time over the next few weeks just delving into it and reading the minutiae, because I think it can give us a roadmap in my work, certainly, for saying to organizations, this is what you need to do, because I think that's sometimes the issue, isn't it? People, they're not sure what to do, and they need kind of data and reports like that'll give them the weapons to kind of talk about this subject to all influence that they're coming across. And it's great to see it coming from government, that this is the House of Lords, obviously, but they're a powerful force, and they're pointing out things that need to be pointed out.
Yes.
And just from an economic point of view, the figure that says overall data skills shortages cost the economy up to £63 billion a year. That's probably a conservative estimate.
Yeah.
Our economy cannot afford that. And then when you come across people who are trying to apply for universal credit and they can't apply, and because the online application is too difficult, and then they have to go to a library or a citizen's advice for help. It's all putting pressure on the system, which brings us back to our occasional point that we make here about, yes, digital systems are great, but we also need help. People need help to use the systems, and sometimes they need alternative way of engaging as well. So it's not all about the digital. Just it's about including people with the way they need to be included. Okay, so great to have Emma on again, and we wish her and Digital Unite and all the colleagues as part of the Digital Poverty Alliance great success as we go forward with the work that we're trying to do. Okay, back to some of our stories that we picked up along the way. The next one on the list that we had was about podcasts being a powerful tool for nonprofits, and this was a story from the Directory of Social Change, and our friends there, including Deborah Alcock-Tyler, who does a great job in leadership in the voluntary sector. But this article is from Vic Turnbull, who presents 3 ways that not-for-profits are currently using podcasts to benefit the incredible work that they do. And it lists that the first way there is benefiting from is contributing to learning resources. I don't know about you, Sweyn, but I know a lot of my friends talk about listening to podcasts as a way of increasing their knowledge and helping them to understand things that they might not want to read about, but they can listen to it, and hopefully we do some of that with our program here as well.
Yeah.
They give an example of one podcast by an organization called Flourish Together, CIC, which supports women to start, sustain and grow social enterprises. And as part of their awesome suite of support are learning events and leadership, startup and employability programs. So there's an example. It's always great to get recommendations for podcasts as well. So hopefully some people listening to us will follow up on these podcasts and let us know what they thought of them. The next element of the toolbox for the way non-for-profits are currently using podcasts to benefit their work is to answer commonly asked questions. And I know that many websites have FAQs, and so they are answering commonly asked questions. But again, a podcast is a way of doing it that other people might find more beneficial. And they give an example here of Sendias Manchester, SENDIAS Manchester, a support service for young people with special educational needs and the parents of SEND children, serving the whole city.
Special educational and
neurodiverse. I imagine so.
Yes.
Yep. So serving the whole of city of Manchester makes the service very busy. Every day they come across similar queries from parents and young people. So the small team, wondering how they could free up their time by having answers to those common questions, have designed an accessible and easy to understand way this podcast. So I think I'll be recommending that to the people in the neighbourhood network schemes in Birmingham who are supporting disabled people as an example of the kind of thing they could copy maybe and produce for Birmingham.
Yeah, sure.
Sounds like a replicable one, definitely.
Absolutely.
And the third one listed in this article is to creatively report to funders. That is, funders who accept this other way of reporting. And Inspire Women Oldham produced a podcast called That Inspire Feeling, which is the perfect opportunity to show their funders Oxfam the breadth of skills, confidence and knowledge that their participants had gained during their funded project called Life. So this sounds like a kind of a distinct project, and they produced a podcast to show what they were,
that's interesting,
doing in the project. Yeah, that sounds really good.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's the old thing: who's your audience? And if your audience is your funders, then you can go down that road quite easily. I haven't thought of that one.
Yeah. So that's 3 great examples, and I'm sure people listening to us would think of other podcasts that would be useful. And if you do and want to come on and talk about it, we'd love to hear from you. Always happy to hear other ways of presenting information. Some people talk about the Dr. Tech Show as a podcast. Sweyn, would that be inaccurate? Would John have called it a podcast?
I don't know. Probably not. But I mean, I think the definition has widened and widened as the years have gone by. I think the only thing that would raise a question as to whether we're a podcast is that we don't disseminate it through the various podcasting program platforms, which is, I guess, something we could consider doing in future. But certainly some podcasts are videos like this. So yes, I'm quite happy to be called a podcast. I'll answer to anything, me. As long as people are either interested in what we say or just decide to switch us off, that's okay with me.
Yeah, very good. Okay, the next article is from Twitter, from a tweeter called Innovation Matt. Uses the Innovation Matt as a handle, and he's talking about the environmental cost of virtual meetings. And I think we've talked about this on the show before. Matt says that, did you know that a 1-hour video call on Teams or Zoom pumps 1 kilogram of CO2 into the atmosphere per person? So just a small act of switching your camera off when you don't need to be on screen makes a difference. Well, now that's interesting, because I've been encouraging people to use Skype as an alternative to Zoom because I think it uses less. You've got a actual table there, what do you call it, infographic?
An infographic. Yes,
Yeah.
it's one that Matt has
Embedded.
posted in answer to a question. The question that came first to my mind, and so that is trying to indicate the incremental environmental footprint of a virtual meeting. I have to say, I think yes, probably. I mean, I'm sure his calculations are all correct, and I'm not arguing with that at all. I would like to see the kilogram of was it CO2, because they're different things. Contextualize somewhat. I should possibly be able to do this, given that I'm studying some of this stuff at the moment. Like, I can't bring anything to mind. So, I mean, is that kilogram? I don't know. It's going to be neither of these. Is it like cycling your e-bike to your office 3 miles away, or is it, and then switching on the lights and the computer anyway, and so on, and having a meeting, or is it like, you know, getting in an airplane and flying across the Atlantic? I think it'll be somewhere in the middle between those two rather extreme situations. And you've got to ask, well, if you weren't doing this, I mean, all meetings should ask themselves, am I necessary?
Yeah.
Could this be an email?
Yeah.
Does it even have to be an email?
Yeah.
And so on. But I think if you do have a need to meet, and I think almost everyone with the best will in the world does, I can't think of a less environmentally impactful way than doing it remotely, even if there are, you know, pretty chunky differences between the different channels. It's still, I think, a very, 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 very small impact compared to what else you could be doing with your time, especially if that is traveling to another meeting somewhere else using anything except your feet or a bicycle.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well,
I mean, yes, we should always be mindful of all this stuff, but it's a bit like when people say, you know, the internet is going to eventually have as much emissions as aviation or farming or whatever it's going to be. How do you? I mean, the benefit of the internet compared to the benefit of everyone flying everywhere, you've got to kind of take a view in that. And if the internet just suddenly stopped, what would I think the impact on the environmental effect of what people would do would only go up, because you'd suddenly have to be much more aggressive in how you communicate with people and send more letters and all that. And you can guarantee that the CO2 impact of sending a letter or a parcel is going to be a lot greater than sending an email or you know, look at a website. So yeah, by all means, we should reduce it if we possibly can. I would be really surprised if, on rigorous analysis, the environmental impact of virtual meetings was anywhere near the top of a list of important things to tackle first to make the biggest impact. But there we are. Yeah, it's interesting. And I can't get used to this X either. This X. Every week when I share these screens, every week when I share these screens, I can anchor myself in the myriad of tabs I've got open by a Twitter logo or a Facebook logo or a Eventbrite logo. But now I'm saying, what's this X? Where am I?
Which X? Which X on each touch?
Anyway, yes, let's not go too far down that.
No, and not everybody has the X yet, by the way, but it's coming. It's coming. Sorry, everybody. Yeah. Apparently, it was a over. You know, not comprehensive. Yeah. Okay, so our next article also talks about the environment, and it's listing the best environmental friendly technology for charities. And this is an article on the Charity Digital website, saying that it says charities should be at the forefront of efforts to protect the planet as part of their environmental, social, and governance plans. But evidence revealed that many have plenty more to do to combat the impact of climate change. And there was a report by Investor Update in 2022 which did reveal that charities are behind the private sector in developing strategies around climate change. Too often this is seen from a basic lens, such as recycling, said one charity representative who was surveyed. One barrier for charities, as we might imagine, is likely to be cost, as they battle the cost of living crisis and consider the money needed to implement green tech solutions across their organisation to be too much. Those facing such barriers should be aware that funding has been made available by the UK government to help charities be more energy efficient. Yeah, that sounds great, but unfortunately, applying for funding is very time consuming, and you're always competing with others who are also competing for that money. I think it does. Yeah, the article goes on to list the dormant asset scheme money, which is available to help charities improve their energy efficiency. And it says in 2023, a 31 million pound package of funding was launched to the scheme by the government for charities to retrofit premises with cleaner, greener, and more efficient energy systems, such as new boilers or heat pumps, solar panels, and new lighting. And it all sounds great, Sweyn, but what if you don't own your building? What if the landlord won't allow you to make changes? What if your funding is such that you're afraid you're going to be closing soon? So what's the point in retrofitting your building for somebody else?
Yeah,
it's a lot of
these are kind of having impacts on what your core running costs are, and it's always core running costs that are most problematic for charities, I guess. Usually. Yeah. There's a list of things that they're suggesting further down. I guess charities should have these things on their list of strategies that they have to keep up to date, like everyone else. So here we are recommending digital meetings, paperless signatures, paperless document management and digital signatures, cloud solutions. Well, yes, I'd be really surprised if any of that is news to very many charities. In actual fact, as you say, it'll be a question of capacity management, bandwidth, all that stuff that might get in the way. But I guess it's and as I suppose they do, the third sector kind of structural support organisations, the voluntary action groupings that there are, I guess charities could just find a wee space to check in with the support that is available there. And as you say, not all of it would be possible or appropriate to all charities. But there we are.
I think it just reminds me of kind of they're making suggestions for kind of small organizations with less resources to do things, and sort of ignoring the big picture of the big, much bigger companies that could do a lot more and aren't. And
yes,
let's focus on them for a change.
I think you're probably saying what I was trying to say about the previous story, which is yes, there's an issue there. Of course there is, and as much as possible should be done about it. But is this really at the top? Is this really part of the critical mass of stuff that has to change to address climate change? Well, maybe not. Maybe. Who knows?
Yeah. Okay. We seem to have another environmental story.
I think we have a duplicate. I think we have a duplicate. This is our first ever duplicate story. This is the article with the same infographic there.
Okay. Yes. I must have picked it out of the tweet.
Was talking about. So maybe we'll just move on from that one to the next one.
Okay, we list it on the YouTube links. The next problem is from a friend of both of us. Well, we both know Dominic Campbell, don't we?
Yes.
I've
met. He's one of these many people I haven't really met, as far as I can remember. But I do kind of know of him, and I exchange messages occasionally. Yeah.
So again, it's from a tweet. Dominic saying why we have a productivity problem in our economies, and he kind of I've copied it for our benefit, myself and Sweyn, kind of doing the program. I've copied some of the dialogue from the exchanges that have kind of followed this thread, and it's between Dominic and Ivor Wells and Chris Anderson. So just quote some of the conversation. Dominic first said, interesting how we never talk about how ludicrous it is that we make young people coming into the workforce go on IT training to learn god-awful enterprise, Dominic's words, not mine, god-awful enterprise tech that was obsolete before they were even born. And we wonder why we have a productivity problem in our economies. And then Ivor says, and purely from a UX perspective, user experience perspective, if you need training to use software these days, then it's probably not fit for purpose. Brackets, yes, I include business applications like SAP in that. Far more important, he says, now for all of us, not just young people, is digital information literacy, which refers back to what Emma Weston was saying a bit earlier on the program. Chris Anderson says it's infuriating, assuming that for you, the root of the issue is the archaic / obsolete enterprise tech. If so, I wonder how much of the solution is skills or learning based, or do we just desperately need business solutions, IT to catch up with consumer software and UX? Dominic response say definitely need an actual functioning enterprise tech market, and a new generation of CIOs willing to buy from it rather than rely on the glacial pace of change brought about by monopolistic providers who haven't the inclination nor skills to change. There's fighting talk there from Dominic on Twitter. Chris responds, fascinating stuff. Working on the workforce skills agenda, we spend so much time talking about how to make sure everyone has required digital capability. We don't consider enough that in so many businesses, they're already fighting a losing battle against the tech itself. And the closing remark that I've picked up from Dominic is right. It's rarely that people aren't able to get there. It's that tech they're given by organizations isn't as simple as it should be, and that people are used to in everyday life. If B2C tech isn't simple, companies fail, but only person you're selling to in organizations is CIOs. So the bar is so much lower. So interesting to see that exchange on Twitter. Yeah, can't argue with any of that really.
Yes, I mean, to me, it's a bit like it's it's kind of what I would call a wicked problem, which kind of works at some level, but there's serious and structural problems with it, which you hope might lead to change, but there's something that blocks the change, in this case, the lack of functioning market and the kind of oligarchy type style market of just a few big players, and yet it kind of works, and you go around this big circle of argument. It's a bit like in structure, to me, it's a bit like saying that it's outrageous that we haven't yet sorted out the fact that there are so many cars on the road when we could all be using public transport. It's a similar type of problem, and I see what he means, but I'm not. It's not for the want of people like Dominic trying to get things to change that it hasn't. And I'm not quite certain how you would go about creating this generation of CIOs that could just drop in and change things suddenly from amongst the market and cultural pressures that there are at the moment, which are keeping everyone in a horrible but unfortunately very stable equilibrium that doesn't really do anybody any favors. So yeah, it's an interesting take. I'm not quite sure what the roadmap out of where we are now and into a future that works in Dominic's terms actually would be, but I'm quite sure that he has lots of ideas, and so he should come on the Dr. Tech show and tell us.
Yes, yeah. Well, we'll approach him and see how he's fixed for the next season, season 4.
Yeah.
Okay, so challenge Dominic. Dominic, if you're there, if you're listening, or if anybody who's listening has a link to Dominic at the moment, I mean, I can contact him myself. But
I mean, I have a lot of sympathy. I have a lot of sympathy for what he says, because as a kind of digital person until very recently in an organization that's a very small one of its type, we see every wrinkle and problem that he's describing there, and they're just very, very obviously rubbish stuff that you have to deal with. But what do you do when one of the reasons there are so few suppliers in the sorts of market he's talking about is because the entry cost is so high to get anywhere to do any subset of the stuff. And if something kind of works, there's a huge inertia in the way of changing it to be better and more usable. So he's right. But I'm not quite sure how you take that and change it. Yeah.
Okay, well, as we say, we'll invite Dominic on and see if he can join us and talk about a bit more of this. So that'll be for season 4.
Oh, I like this.
Which next one?
Yes.
Get Wi-Fi signal from routers to a garden room. Yeah.
Yes.
Again on Twitter, someone called John Elledge is asking, or someone's asked them, if someone wants to get Wi-Fi signal from their routers to a garden room about 100 feet away, is there a way of doing that, or is it just too far? So
the conversation begins. It's hilarious.
Yes. I just picked out a few of the elements of the conversation, which were that effective Wi-Fi range is about half of that I think that 100 feet. You can get repeaters or extenders for longer distances, but it will be a lot cheaper, probably more stable, albeit more faff, to dig a shallow trench and run an Ethernet cable in a plastic conduit. Does that sound a bit like what Chris Condor is doing in Barn?
Absolutely. I mean, that is, they are asking people to or helping people dig their own trenches and
Yeah.
winding them up with fibre in that case. But yes, it's always best, if you can, just to send a signal down a cable. It's always best. It's nice to go wrong. But my favorite bit of this was where he gets lots of suggestions, including what type of conduit to run a cable through. And he goes the best tweet of all in this conversation is, "A lot of you guys are way overestimating my mother's enthusiasm for physical disruption to her garden here." You just imagine somebody with a spade trying to dig through her rose patch and in among her vegetables and all the rest of it, because that's the best technical solution. And it's just a fabulous tiny example of why there are so many different types of solution for every question in technology and digital. It's brilliant. Anyway, carry on.
No, there's some great text there, and we'll leap on because we're kind of nearly at the end of the show. But we want to cover a few more. This next one's from Dave Briggs, who's a friend of both of us, and who we should also have on the show as well. He'd be value for money. So his article was based on a previous article with what's her name? Carrie Bishop, that's right, in 2016. And the question was, should you develop a single customer account? And basically the TLDR too long didn't read. The answer is no.
This is aimed at local authorities specifically.
Yes, it is. Yes.
And the reason for this is because local authorities have such a huge range of services. He and before him Carrie were asking, do you really need to draw all these together in an expensive front end where you've only got one account per person or per address or whatever, and spend lots of money integrating everything together? And the answer is, for the reasons that he gives in the article, probably you should spend the money on making each service more usable and more flexible and more aligned with what people actually want to do. Because there are very, very, very few people, if anyone at all, who could ever imagine trying to access all the different things a council does for them from one screen. Although that's what councils, and that's what the received wisdom is, that's the best way to arrange council services. So this is a great start. And I think the answer, the good thing about this one is that it is clear what the alternative is, and the alternative is just to not waste money doing this.
But he does lay out some very good points, which we haven't got time to go into today, about what you should do. So if you're in a local authority and you're thinking about this, Dave has some great advice here. So please do read it.
It completely goes against all the thinking of the last 15 to 20 years, but it's a really interesting and it convinced me anyway.
Yeah, so good.
And finally,
we will finish with a story about our friends at Clear Community Web. Casper Kennerdale has been on the show several times already, and we're hoping to have him back again early in season 4 in September. And this is wonderful stories from the people that they work with, and their volunteers on the ground that we found on LinkedIn. Clear Community Web was shadowed for 2 days by the Good Things Foundation, creating footage as part of their Get Online London scheme with Lottie, the London Organisation of Technology and Innovation. And in 2022, Casper, I think who probably wrote this article, Clear Community Web directly worked with over 500 people across their various programs within a 5 square mile area of London, so not a huge area, and very dedicated. The stories are a true testimony to the team making this happen, but a clear demonstration of the demand as they exceeded the figures of 500 already for 2023. So we know that Clear Community Web and other organizations like them out in the community are doing great work, and we support them, and we encourage you to support them as well, to help people understand online communications and increase their digital inclusion. So this brings us to the end of season 3 of Dr. Tech Show. There were a few less episodes this year, this season, than we had in previous seasons for various reasons, which we won't go into. But we hope that people who did tune into the episodes we did present found them useful, and we hope to return in about mid-September, the week of the Ending Digital Poverty Day on the 12th of September. We're hoping to be back that week with more stories and guests. But if you want to be a guest, if you are interested in online communications, especially if you came online during lockdown and you've learned things through that, or you're interested in digital inclusion, we'd love to have you on the show. So please contact us through the usual channels. But for now, we'll say goodbye. We hope you have a great week, a great month, and we hope to see you again in September. Thank you.
Have a good summer, everyone. Bye.